Welcome back to Travels with Alicia. In this episode, I'll talk about escaping the summer heat. Right now, living on the East Coast in the United States, we are in a massive heat wave in June of 2025. It's been over 100 degrees Fahrenheit or 38 degrees Celsius. It is definitely too hot to enjoy an outdoor vacation. Let's talk about some great destinations for those who don't love the heat, where milder weather is, and it will be much better for sightseeing and activities. These destinations will allow you to stay cool even in the hottest months. So I'm going to cover two amazing vacations, one on the West Coast and one on the East Coast. So let's talk about first the West Coast, and particularly the Pacific Northwest, Seattle, Washington, and Portland, Oregon. These cities are under 3 hours apart, so it's very doable to do this in one vacation. And the weather is much better there. So the average summer highs are only between 70 and 80 degrees Fahrenheit or 21 to 28 degrees Celsius. It is a dream destination for summer. In the winters, it's kind of misty and rainy and not the best weather. But in the summer, that's where these cities really shine. So they have beautiful climate in the summer, and they have mountains and coastlines, but they're very different. The average summer highs are only in the 70s to 80s Fahrenheit, or 21 to 28 degrees Celsius. It is a dream summer destination. Actually, the winters aren't the best in these two cities. They're very misty and cloudy, but in the summer, this is the perfect place to go on the West Coast. So first, let's talk about the similarities between these two cities, and then we'll talk about the differences and why it's worth visiting both of these. So both of these cities have natural beauty. They're surrounded by beautiful landscapes, mountains, forests, rivers, and access to water, whether it's a lake, and actually both of them are not too far away from the Pacific Ocean. So they both have an outdoor culture that's very strong. Like, people love to hike, bike, they're skiing in the winter, but a lot of kayaking in the summer. It's a very progressive culture. It's more liberal leaning and very environmentally conscious. So they have a strong focus on, inclusivity, sustainability, things like that. They also strongly support local businesses, farmers markets, and artisans. So as we said, it's a beautiful place in the summer for both of these destinations. And I would try to avoid, especially the winter when they have those gray skies and very long rainy seasons. Also, both of the cities have a strong coffee culture. Seattle is the birthplace of Starbucks, and Portland is filled with a lot of independent roasters, but they do both love the coffee scene. So what's different, and why would you want to visit them both? So Seattle is larger, and it has a very interesting skyline. There's the Space Needle there, the Amazon headquarters. It's a major tech and aerospace hub. Seattle is very fast-paced. It's more corporate. The housing is much more expensive in Seattle, and it does have some congested highways and traffic to deal with. The music and art scene, is very strong. A lot of performance venues, and to describe Seattle, it's more like tech chic meets like urban outdoorsy. So it's very interesting culture in Seattle. So the difference between Seattle and Portland is Portland is smaller. It doesn't have as many high rises. It's more spread out. It has a smaller tech scene. The Portland area focuses on creative industries and entrepreneurship more than just the tech. It's more quirky and laid back. It's more affordable. The housing costs are much less, even though it is rising. Traffic, it's more bike and pedestrian friendly. It's simpler to get around Portland. The art scene is very indie, and it's kind of has emphasis on visual and experimental arts. So not as many big performance venues like Seattle does. It's more hipster and bohemian. So as you can see, they're different enough that, you're not going to be getting the same vacation if you spend a couple days in each city. Seattle feels like a global city with a tech backbone. It has a modern skyline, and it's very innovative and fast evolving. Portland feels like a creative town that kind of grew into a city. It talks about that it's charming, and it's very proud that it's weird. Personally, I don't get that. I don't know why you'd want to say you're weird, but I think they're focusing on the creativity and the individual arts that they promote. So I recommend seeing them both. Let's talk about what you can do in these cities. So I'll start with Seattle, and it's known for having this market. So where I live, close to Philadelphia, we have the Reading Terminal Market, which is also really famous. They have the Pike Place Market. It's a historic market, and they sell fresh seafood, artisanal food. It's a really lively atmosphere, and this is where the original Starbucks store is. So it should be on your place if you're, on your list if you're visiting Seattle. There's also the Space Needle, and then it's a huge observation deck. So that would be fun to go up and see. And it's close to a garden area that has stunning glass sculptures. So that would be worth visiting. They have the Museum of Pop Culture, and that's like a really fun museum. It has interactive exhibits, so I highly recommend that. Seattle also has, and many cities do, it has a giant Ferris wheel. It's like 175 feet. Personally, I don't like Ferris wheels, but I would pick the observation deck, but there's a lot of people who love that, and they do have one in Seattle. So they also have an area called Pioneer Square and the Underground, and this is a historic district, and it's basically about the famous underground area, and you learn about the city's early days. There's hidden pathways all below the streets, so that's really interesting and probably worth, doing while you were there. Hotels, again, it's a big city. They have a Four Seasons, a Thompson. You will definitely not suffer for, beautiful hotels. Also, restaurants. They have some very famous restaurants. One is called Pike Place Chowder, and it's in the Pike Place Market, and it's known for a creamy New England clam chowder, and it's served in a sourdough bread bowl, which is kind of interesting that it's not in New England, but that's what they're known for. But they're also just known for seafood. So Seattle has a lot of seafood. And then there's the Ray's Boathouse. It's a waterfront restaurant. Highly recommend it. And the other restaurant that I just wanted to call out is called Maneki, Seattle's oldest sushi restaurant. And it's been there since 1904. And it's in the heart of the International District. So that might be fun to try. The other thing I'll talk about, and I like to bring it into a lot of my podcasts because I enjoy art. Both Seattle and Portland have amazing art. So Seattle is known for some really high-end galleries. They have this Seattle Art Museum. They have Olympic Sculpture Park. And they have some really large-scale works, and that's near the waterfront. They have the Fry Art Museum. So it's just, I can go on and on. I'm not going to name all the museums, but Seattle is known for some really good museums. They also have some street art and public art. They have a corridor. I'm not sure how they call it. It's SODO track, and it's a massive street art corridor. It's like in an industrial zone, and they have over 60 large murals painted by international and local artists. So if you want to see that, that would be definitely on my list of what I would want to do. The whole area of Capitol Hill and Belltown are popular areas for murals and stuff. So if you want to just kind of drive around those areas, there's so much to see. So the other thing I want to tell you is okay, so now you've done Seattle. You've really got to, experience the city, see all the highlights. On your road trip from Seattle to Portland, you can actually even stop some places. So Tacoma is one of the places that would be worth stopping. And they have a big botanical conservatory that would be worth seeing. Another place is called Tumwater Falls. You can actually see a real waterfall right off the highway. So Tumwater Falls would be a place I'd stop. So you don't have to drive 3 hours straight. You can stop. Tacoma has great restaurants. You can, there's things to do along the way. And then you'll get to Portland, Oregon. And so what can you do in Portland? So they have a huge park called Washington Park. And this is really strange. I've never heard of this, but they have an international rose test garden. And it's home to over 10,000 rose bushes. And it's the oldest operating test garden in the U.S. There's also the Portland Japanese Garden, and that's over 9 acres with beautiful Japanese landscaping. And then they have a zoo. And again, that would be fun, especially if you had kids to go to the zoo. So Seattle had the Pike Place Market. If you go to Portland, you have something called the Portland Saturday Market. And every Saturday from March through December, this is a huge outdoor market. It's the largest continuously operated outdoor arts and crafts market in the U.S. And it features more than 400 vendors. So that would be definitely worth doing, and try to make sure you're in Portland on a Saturday. There's an aerial tram that goes above Portland and it gives you stunning views. So instead of a lookout, you could do the aerial tram. And then just outside the city, there's an area, the Columbia River Gorge, and it has beautiful waterfalls, and it's definitely worth seeing. Again, in Portland, another relatively large city, they have plenty of gorgeous hotels. Probably I'd recommend the Nines or the Kimpton River Palace Hotel. They're both good ones. Or there's a hotel called Hotel Lucia, and it's very stylish, and it has a contemporary art collection. You're more in a vibrant neighborhood, so if you want that kind of feel, remember the Hotel Lucia. Lots of great restaurants in Portland. Poke Poke is a really famous restaurant that's actually known for Thai cuisine. And they make this famous Vietnamese fish sauce wings. So that's something I love. So I'll recommend that to you. But they're also known for Southern style food and fried chicken and things like that. There's so much to do, and they have many, many kinds of restaurants. So I'm going to end with Portland and their art scene. And so their art is definitely different. Like I talked about all the really well-known museums in Seattle. Here you have things like Blue Sky Gallery, and it's a nonprofit space dedicated to contemporary photography. They have a contemporary art center that's run for just experimental and conceptual work. They do have the Portland Art Museum, which has rotating exhibits, but probably has some more traditional things as well. They have a couple galleries just known for performance art or dedicated to represent diverse and contemporary artists. They also have a very big street art or public art scene. The Alberta Arts District is Portland's most creative neighborhood. It has murals on nearly every single building. So that's the Alberta Arts District. And they hold monthly art walks and things like that, and that would be fun to do. There's also the Central East Side Industrial District, and that has many different work from local and global artists in that area. And then they have something called Keep Portland Weird murals, and they also have public sculptures that are very playful, and that's something that they do to try to keep that concept of Portland is weird. So you might see a lot of that stuff around. So I hope you've enjoyed talking about the Pacific Northwest. It is somewhere to escape the heat. It would be a great vacation. And, if you really want to, you could even extend it and go off to the Pacific Ocean, which is about an hour or so away from both those cities. But there's enough to do if you love cities and you want to be out, at least you could be there and not be so hot. So now I'm going to move on to the second place I'm going to recommend to escape the heat in the United States, and that's on the East Coast, and that would be coastal Maine, particularly Bar Harbor and the Arcadia National Park. Average summer temperatures here are actually cooler than the Pacific Northwest. The summer temperatures in Maine are in the 70s, and so in the low 20s Celsius. Maine summers are straight out of a postcard. It's breezy. We're talking lots of fresh lobster and many charming seaside villages. So Bar Harbor is a great place to base yourself for exploring the Arcadia National Park. And this is a very, very well-visited national park. And I'll talk about that first, because that is what Bar Harbor is most known for. It is a beautiful, town with restaurants and shopping, but a lot of people go there specifically for the national park. So let me talk about that first. There's so much to do in the park. One is Cadillac Mountain. That's, there's this beautiful mountain, and it has like granite cliffs, and it's also the place where I think you can see the sunrise first in the United States. So a lot of people go to do that. They have an area called Park Loop Road, and this is a 27-mile drive that takes you past many of the park's highlights, including Sand Beach, Thunder Hole, and Otter Cliffs. So if you just want to drive through the park, you would be taking the Park Loop Road. There's also something called carriage roads, and this is 45 miles of scenic car-free roads. So this is perfect for hiking, biking, and it's a wonderful, peaceful way to explore the parks. And the fact that it looks like most of these are paved, so it's perfect for not being too strenuous or dangerous. So while you're there, you should definitely find Sand Beach. It's a small beach nestled between rocky cliffs, and it's absolutely beautiful. There's also Thunder Hole. It's an inlet where waves crash and create a huge roar, and it sounds like thunder. There's Otter Cliffs, which has all these beautiful jagged stone scenery. There's Jordan Pond, which is a beautiful glacial lake around hiking trails. So these are all things to do. And what people are really doing is they are hiking and exploring Arcadia National Park. So this is something that you would never want to do in the heat. So the fact that you can go to this national park in the summertime and enjoy it in much better weather than many of the national parks in the summer. So keep that on your list. So what can you do in coastal Maine and Bar Harbor? Number one for me would be seafood, particularly lobster. And what Maine is known for is, they have high-end dining. Don't get me wrong. You can eat lobster in the fanciest of restaurants. But they have shacks, lobster shacks, all over where you can get lobster at a very, very affordable price. And they're known for lobster rolls, but you can just get lobster platters, all different ways. There's something called the Rose Eden Lobster place, and it used to be called the Traveling Lobster. But these places are super affordable, and they're primarily takeout. Sometimes they'll have picnic tables outside to eat your food. So, because personally, I kind of like to eat it when it's fresh. I don't want to always just take it home, especially if you're on vacation and you're traveling around. But definitely eat as much seafood as you possibly can. So if I were up in Bar Harbor, I would also take some day trips. You can get out to the Schoodic Peninsula. It's about an hour, so it has some beautiful places to hike and to kayak and enjoy, but it's not as busy as Arcadia National Park. So being a national park, you can expect the crowds would be very high there. This would be something similar you could do, but a lot less crowded. So keep that in mind. Also, I would highly recommend visiting Camden, Maine. That's less than 2 hours south. It is a gorgeous town, on the lake, and it has a beautiful place to walk around. I've actually stayed in this town twice with my family, and we've stayed in beautiful homes that actually sit on the lake. So you have beautiful sunrise, sunsets on big porches, and they came with kayaks so people could go out kayaking. And my favorite memory of visiting Camden, Maine, again, involved lobster, but it wasn't just the lobster shacks. This was at a nice restaurant called the Waterfront Restaurant. That's where I think they have the best, but they sell this everywhere. It's called lobster stew. And so I think sometimes the name is a little misleading, because when I think of stew, I think of like a beef stew that's kind of thick. But a lobster stew is really like a scalding hot milk and butter with lobster in it. And it is so good. I guess it can be different consistencies, but it shouldn't be too thick. It's more of a milky, buttery, unbelievable, delicious soup when I say lobster, like they'll cut up a whole lobster in it because it's Maine. So I'm actually getting really hungry talking about this. But do that if you go to Camden. And if you go a little further south, another 20 or 30 minutes, you run into the towns of Rockland and Rockport, Maine. And they have a beautiful coastal, scene. They're distinct, but they're only 6 miles apart. And they have beautiful, like, harbors and things like that. And I think one of them has a memorial to Andre the Seal. That's Rockport, yeah, the marine park. So what I'm trying to say is the whole coastal Maine area is worth visiting. It is so worth visiting, particularly in the summer. And I will say, I think I was there both times in July, and we did need sweatshirts a lot. So you can see when we say it's 70 degrees, that could be in the daytime. At night, it could be cooler. So if you like to be really active and don't want to be in 100-degree weather, I think Maine is a perfect place for you. I loved it. I highly recommend it. And I really hope you enjoyed this episode. Stay cool and stay tuned for the next episode of Travels with Alicia.